What is up, guys? Welcome to the ThinkComputers weekly tech podcast. This is episode 272. And as always, our podcast is brought to you by Amazon. If you go to thinkcomputers.org/Amazon and happen to purchase something that gives us a little kickback and keeps the podcast ongoing, with me, of course, is my co-host Ryan. What's going on?
Up from a little snooze, little pre-podcast snooze.
Yeah.
Had to get a little energy boost, but I'm good to go.
I feel like I've ordered something on Amazon almost like every day since I've...
Dang. Oh, every day since
stuff.
you moved?
Like, it's just like one thing after another. Like, you don't realize who you need, and then you just start ordering stuff, and then I'm like doing stuff at the office. I don't know if you guys can see, but like, wait, I always do this backwards. Right there is like a new shelf that I built.
And that shelf, you sent me a picture of it the other day. It like fits perfectly in that space between the doors.
And it honestly wasn't supposed to go back there, but it was supposed to go like over here. But then it ended up fitting perfectly there, so I'm just leaving it there. And it's a good backdrop because I mean the background here is still pretty bad. I feel like for the podcast, like if you like me, like. There's just a bunch of stuff like, you know, like over here, I need to figure out what I can do to make it look not, I mean, there's just like test machine and stuff, but we're working on it. It's going to hopefully get better. So it looks kind of cool in here. The good thing is that the window inserts that I had been talking about did come in. So I've one on this window, and the window over there are letting this natural light, because I don't even have the lights in the room on. There's no lights in the room on. It's all natural light right now.
So much crazy that it's that bright in there.
Yeah, which it looks really good. Now I may eventually do what you do and get some key lights, you know, and completely black the room out for when we do the podcast, because then like you can see the lights on the shelf behind me. Those will actually look a lot better. And then I do have a couple RGB spotlights that you can kind of see. You can kind of see the blue one behind me, and then there's a yellow one. But
you got really a couple of those the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, I have a set of
those ones you're showing to me. Okay.
Yeah, they're incredibly bright. I should take a picture.
Hopefully you can adjust that, right?
Yeah, you can adjust the brightness, but it's like, I mean, if you want to, like, if you're doing a stream and you want to have a lot of background RGB, like at nighttime, these are excellent, which I'm probably going to make a video on them. Like, they're pretty cool. Yeah. And also, hopefully this podcast, we don't run into any issues. If you guys watched last week's episode, my camera just died the last like 10 minutes, just completely just was out of battery, which is weird because I had it plugged in via USB and it was supposedly charging USB. I had it plugged into my computer. So I just completely undid that, and I got like a USB power strip, and that's what's plugged into now. So hopefully we don't run into that issue. I also completely redid my camera. We were running into a lot of issues. I switched a lot of the settings up, so everything hopefully is good, and I look good. And yeah, we're just ready to go. I'm just like,
I'm really noticing that blue light behind you now. I don't feel like it was that noticeable earlier. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
The thing is,
the clouds.
Like, yeah, there could be clouds.
Shifted,
like, and
that's what it was.
Talking about the natural light, the blinds are closed right now. Like, that's how much natural light is in this room. Yeah, but yeah, you'll notice the lights. Like the yellow one is like right here. That yellow is from the RGB light, so it's yellow and blue. But in any case, yeah, you'll notice me change a little bit because again, I don't have any constant lighting in here. So I might turn the big lights on eventually if I get too dark or whatever. But yeah, so hopefully this podcast goes off without a hitch because we had, at least I did. It was like, wasn't it the week before you?
Last week?
Wasn't it the week before you had issues or something? I don't remember.
No,
I don't know. So. I think the week before you had issues on the gaming stream. I think that's what it was. Yeah. But obviously, guys, we're here to talk about tech, and we have a lot to talk about this week. As I said at the end of last week's podcast, back to reviews. So more than just like taking a look at one product a week. This week, we've taken a look at 3. And there's actually going to be some reviews later this week as well because we have some new products coming out. So a lot of really cool stuff to talk about. If you wanted to follow along with what we're going to be talking about in this episode, in the show notes, we have the link to, or in the description of the video, wherever you're watching this, there is a link to the show notes, and that will go through everything that we are talking about today. Once I share my screen, I can bring it up for you guys. There we go. And it has everything that we're going to be talking about today. And let's start with our first review, which is of the Samsung SSD 980, not to be confused with their 980 Pro, which is a Gen 4 drive. This is a Gen 3 drive. And the first thing you notice about this drive immediately is the name, is that there's no Evo, there's no Pro, there's nothing, there's no, almost all the Samsung drives are an Evo or a Pro or a QVO or something. There's just completely
straight up 980.
Yeah, SSD 980. That's what it's called. And this is really Samsung's first basically entry level NVMe SSD. They really have always been on the mainstream or high end. They've never really gone into that entry level. And I think it's great for them to get into the entry level because they'll make it more competitive and they'll bring a lot of that Samsung, quality, as in warranty, in all that stuff that you're going to get with a Samsung drive, you're going to get on that lower end where you might have had some other companies to choose from and you're not so sure about, their warranty and their software and things like that. So you have all that in the entry level now. The SSD 980 is your typical Gen 3 by 4 NVMe SSD, 80 millimeters long, so it's going to fit in pretty much any slot on your motherboard. And it is their first DRAM-less drive. So typically, when it comes to an NVMe drive, you have a cache chip or a DRAM chip that's made for cache. And this drive does not have that. And the way they kind of get around that or mitigate that is with HBM. So basically, we've all been talking about that with graphics cards, the shared memory. Basically, it's going to use part of your system's DRAM as the DRAM for the drive. It's not as efficient as having DRAM on the drive itself, but it saves money so they can put this drive out at a more entry-level price. And again, I was actually kind of surprised at some of the things they were able to do with that. The controller that they're using is, of course, this is a Samsung drive, so everything on this drive is made by Samsung. I really like that for a lot of reasons. One, it gives them full control over everything. They don't have to work with another company, whether it's firmware stuff or anything like that. Everything on this drive is made by Samsung. So it is their own controller. We don't know a ton about their controller. It's their Pablo controller. It's a 4-channel controller, which again, most Gen 4 or Gen 3 drives use 8-channel controllers. This is only 4-channel, so you definitely want to keep that in mind. Again, no DRAM cache, and it is using Samsung's brand new 512 gigabit, 128 layer 3D TLC NAND. And the interesting thing about this drive is that it does not ship with any type of heatsink. You can use the one on your board, or you don't have to use one at all. But in this back section, it's a single-sided drive as well. But this back section, this part right here is actually a piece of copper, which is going to help sort of transfer or dissipate that heat a little bit that's going to come off of the controller.
It's interesting that it's there because, that's going to be up against not up against your motherboard, but that's kind of goes in that gap between the drive and your board there. I mean, we've seen this on other drives, but just kind of interesting that
we saw this exact thing was used in their 980 Pro as well. This kind of exact same design. And for a Gen 3 drive, it's not obviously the fastest. The drive, I believe we got the 512 gigabyte version of the drive, and it is rated for speeds of 3,100 megabytes a second read and 2,600 megabytes a second write. So not the fastest drive out there, but again, it's entry level. So if you just take that compared to a normal solid or like a normal solid state drive or even a normal hard drive, you're still getting much faster performance, lower power as well. It's one thing you definitely have to think about, especially if you're moving from a normal hard drive to an NVMe drive, just the power savings and all of that. And in our testing, it ran pretty much right up to those speeds. You know what I mean? It did what it was supposed to do. One thing I did notice, if we get into like the heavy writes, which again, this drive is not made for crazy heavy writes, but using your system's memory instead of an onboard DRAM chip, instead of an onboard DRAM chip, we can see in the extended write test that it writes probably about like 21-22% of the drive, where a lot of drives will write to only 10%, and then once the cache is done, it drops. Now, the interesting thing about this drive is that when it does drop, it drops much more significantly than other drives. So other drives, say they'll drop down to around like 1,000 or 700 or 800 megabytes a second. This drops around like 350. I mean, it brings the speed down a lot. But again, this is if you're doing extended writes on the drive, which most people really won't be doing. You probably won't ever experience something like this at all. That is really the only downfall of the drive itself. I didn't run into any heat issues. I ran it without a heat sink. That's how we do all of our tests with NVMe drives. No heat sink, no throttling issues. It works with Samsung's Magician software, which I think is the best SSD software out there. It's just so well made. It has everything that you want. It allows you to encrypt your drive. It allows you to do a secure erase of your drive. It allows you to run tests on the drive. Everything is in their software. They back this up with a 5-year warranty, which is for an entry-level drive. That's a lot. Most companies on their entry-level drives will only have a 3-year warranty. You have a 5-year warranty. Of course, it's backed by Samsung, which is a big deal. The prices on these is the 512 gigabyte one. The one that we reviewed is $69.99, and the 1 terabyte is $129.99. Those prices aren't horrible, but they're not great, right? I would say with the extra stuff that you do get, whether it's the software or the longer warranty, I think that the prices are fair. I still think that Samsung coming in with how big of a company that they are, they could have undercutted just a little bit more, been a little bit more aggressive with their pricing. But I do think it's a good drive. I think that if you want to skimp on your SSD, you're looking at a Gen 3 drive, this is one that I would highly recommend just because it's Samsung. It's going to be good, and we didn't run into any issues. It's not going to overheat like previous Samsung drives did, and you're going to have good performance. And as you get up, the 1 terabyte version has, I think it's 3,500 megabytes a second read on that one. So as you get up into the higher capacity, you get better performance as well. Sure. I do believe they're going to come out with a 2 terabyte version soon. I don't think it's out just yet. So again, I think it's a good drive. I think it's priced okay. And again, we're still in that kind of like global shortage of everything. So prices do fluctuate a little bit. So, sure, you might want to wait for them to kind of things to ease off just a little bit, but I think it's a good drive overall. So definitely check out my review.
I'm curious. Do you notice with it being DRAMless that do you notice like a performance hit, or maybe not a performance hit, but do you notice like memory utilization of your system memory when you're doing that, right? Okay.
No,
that's good.
I mean,
if it's, utilizing that, I'm sure it's not just like, oh, hey, we're going to write 20 gigs out to your, stored on your memory. Obviously you're not,
I think the max is 64 megabytes.
Oh, okay. That's not.
Yeah. So it's not not a whole lot. And based on that size, and again, it's able to write for longer than a lot of drives that have DRAM chips. The only caveat to that is, as I said, once the performance does take that hit, it goes lower than those other. Yeah, it's a bigger hit. But for most people, if you're playing a game or you're just using your computer normally, you're not gonna run into that, especially as you get into the higher capacity. Like, you're just not going to run into that. And in my general usage, I don't run into that and that's with doing everything that I do. I mean, most people won't run into that at all. So yeah, so definitely check out that review in the chat. Old Man said he's just dropping in. Well, it's good to see you here. You usually here every week with us. So if you guys are in the chat or want to say what's up, definitely just leave us a message, and I always try to like look and see, but sometimes I do get behind on them. Or if I'm talking about something, I don't want to abruptly stop and then talk to you guys, but definitely say what's up in the chat. Next, we have some incredibly fast memory. Some of the fastest, or actually the fastest kit that I've ever tested. Real quick in the chat, Old Man did say people buy those Samsung M.2 drives because they are great. They have a great reputation for reliability. Yeah, I mean, they are really good. And again, they're a company that you can trust with their like with the warranty, and you won't have to like worry like, oh, if I contact them, are they actually going to like RMA stories from a bunch of companies are really bad, but they always have really good, you know, they're always really good with getting you drives. And I think they have the thing now where it's like you just give them their serial number and they'll ship you a new drive before you even send the old one back. I'm pretty sure that's how that all works now. So Tech Phase, he is in the chat and he said, hey, hi, fan from India. Well, it's good to have you here. Hopefully you stick around and hang out with us every week. But let's move on to this memory. So I have the memory here. I'll make myself big so you guys can see it. It is this stuff. I mean, I do have to say, for just like without the RGB, this memory, at least for me, I don't know what you think about it, Ryan, but like this is probably one of the better looking memory that I've seen. It's just so sleek and nice, and it's like, I don't know. It's just me.
It's pretty like, I don't want to say basic. It's just pretty like low key, right? It's got their logo. I don't really understand their AORUS logo on the other side. Like it almost seems like it's upside down.
No, it's not, but it's not though. Well, kind of, but I like that. I like that look. Like the AORUS logo. I'm a fan of the AORUS logo. So maybe,
I like the logo. It looks like it's like
yeah,
upside down to me.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
No, but I think they're fine looking. Yeah.
In any case, this is just simply called the AORUS RGB memory. So if you remember a few years ago, Gigabyte or AORUS did start getting into the memory market, and they released their AORUS memory. I guess you would call this stuff Gen 2 of that, because it's completely different design than the original one. But they're just calling them AORUS RGB memory. There's no like
designator past that. It almost makes you think like this is the one product they're going to make and they're not going to branch out into others. I guess.
So the kit that we received is their GP-ARS16G48, which isn't even listed on their website, apparently. But it is 4800 megahertz DDR4 running at 1926-2646 at 1.5 volts. So it's incredibly fast. It's actually the fastest memory that I've ever tested. 4800 megahertz is really getting up there. And like I said, I really do like this memory. I'll bring up some other shots of it so you guys can see it, whether, you know. And one thing that's interesting is, I know, like, I review a lot of memory. This stuff's like heavy. It's very heavy, which makes you think that the heat spreaders are really good quality and they're not just like some cheap little piece of metal. And I don't know if you guys can like look, but they're decently thick as well. So
yeah, they are pretty thick. A lot of times they're just like almost like a, I don't know, aluminum pop can thin, right? Like, or just a little thicker than that. Yeah, those do look pretty hefty.
Yeah, so they're, like I said, it's really nice looking memory. And that's the first thing that kind of struck me, was just like how well, you know, this memory looks and everything like that. At the top here, it does have a single diffuser. And what's kind of nice about this diffuser is there's no AORUS logos. There's no writing on it. It's just a white diffuser, but it's actually a thicker white diffuser, which I think does obviously its job in diffusing the RGB lighting that's under it, which I'll go ahead and show you. I think it does just a really good job, like solid diffusion across the entire memory. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a kind of a muted color. It doesn't look, it's not too in your face. Which is what I kind of prefer in memory.
Yeah, and because it's a thicker diffuser, you can't actually really see each individual RGB LED, which sometimes happens on other kits that don't have the right type of diffusion. So it just looks like a solid bar, which I like. I think it looks really good. Obviously, with the RGB lighting, you do control it with their RGB Fusion software. You can control each individual RGB LED. Very easy to use. Had no issues there. Now, the thing I want to say about this memory is that at least the kit, there's a bunch of different kits. I think that this starts out at 3200 megahertz and it goes all the way up to, I think this is the highest kit right now, is 4800 megahertz. You need a system that's going to be able to run it. I tested this on our brand new Z590 system, which we used the Core i9 11900K, and we used an AORUS motherboard. We used the Gigabyte Z590 AORUS Master, which these are actually on the QVL list for, so I knew it was going to run. But even on like Z490 or an 11900K, you might have issues running this. It all depends on the motherboard. I would definitely check with your motherboard manufacturer to see if it will support memory this high, because I've had issues in the past. I remember reviewing like 4400 megahertz memory on Z490, and I had to test like 3 different boards, and it would only run on one board. So that's definitely something you want to consider when it comes to this memory. But overall, this memory is awesome. It's super fast. I love the way it looks. They actually do offer these in kits that have the dummy sticks in them. So this is a 16 gigabyte kit, so I'd get 2. But in the kits that have dummy kits, you would actually get 4 sticks, where 2 of them are dummy sticks, where they don't actually have any ICs on them, but you'll still get the RGB lighting. So it looks like you have a full row of memory when you only have 16 gigabytes, which is kind of cool. They've done that
before, haven't they?
That was kind of,
which I think is awesome. It looks, it's a good idea.
That was kind of like their big thing when they came in, was, doing something cool like that. So they offer that as well. I gave this a 9 out of 10. The one issue that I did have, which we talked about on that HP memory reviewed a while back as well, is that when you do have it installed, I'll try to show you an install picture. This side shows, the side with the sticker shows out. So you can see here on my AORUS motherboard, my Gigabyte motherboard, the side with the sticker shows out, which I'm not a fan of. I'd rather have the cool AORUS logo like this showing out.
Yeah.
We have seen a couple companies where with those HP ones, we saw that as well. Yeah. I don't know if it's just an oversight. This could be like an early kit that was sent to me, because I know not a lot of people have got the 4800 megahertz kit, but it just seems like this side should not be showing out on your memory. And it's not the motherboard that I have, because I tested, like, we have Corsair memory, we have Giel memory, we have HyperX memory. They all are the correct way like this. So that is the only issue that I really had with this memory. As far as pricing, I could not find the 4800 megahertz kit. There is a 4400 megahertz kit that's selling on Amazon for $179. So I expect this to be like $189 or $199 for the 16 gigabyte kit.
I think it'd be close to 200 I know it's not a huge jump in speed there, but I think when you get to those higher speeds and that higher performance, it always seems like there's quite a bit of a premium to get that top tier performance. Oh,
and I was able to actually overclock these, which is actually really surprising to me. Yeah. I was just like, this is not going to work. I was able to get these to boot at 5,000 megahertz. Nice. All I did, and that's the same timings, all I did was bump the voltage to 1.55. Everything ran except for 3D Mark, which is one of our benchmarks we use for memory. That would error out every time, but everything else ran fine. So I really wouldn't suggest that you run this overclocked anyways, because they're really pushing the maximum speed out of these as well, just themselves. But yeah, pretty cool memory kit. I was actually really surprised. We talk about how like a company comes into a new market and they're like, what are they going to do? But these really impressed me, not only from like how fast and how well they perform, but just like the overall build quality and how well they look. I really like these. So I would say if you have an Aorus motherboard, these are perfect kit to match that with. So
yeah.
So yeah. Our next review is of a portable SSD, which seems like I have too many of them, which I do.
It's like one a month about, seems like.
Yeah, but this one's kind of cool. So this one is the it's just the Ravpower Mini Ssd, and Ravpower makes a lot of interesting. They're not really known as like a storage company. They make a lot of more like mobile kind of products, but of course a mobile product is a portable SSD, and I have it right here. I'll make myself big again so you guys can kind of see this one. It is so small. It is like look at this. Like I'm pretty sure this is the smallest portable SSD that I've ever reviewed. I mean, it's super small, single Type-C connection right there in the end.
Tiny.
It is absolutely small. It's so awesome to have. And this is 1 terabyte. So I have 1 terabyte right here in my hand, just like no problem.
Yeah.
So this is a USB 3.2 Gen 1 drive. That's the only thing that's kind of its downfall, is that now we have USB 3.2 Gen 2 and USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 drives that are out now. You also have PCI Express portable drives that are decently faster than this as well. So this is rated for 540 megabytes a second read and write. It performed pretty much up to that, a little bit slower, around 500 megabytes a second, pretty much on read and write that I got out of this drive, which is fine for a portable drive. And if you think about it, that's so much faster than like a USB 2.0 drive, and even a lot faster than a USB 3.0 flash drive, which those max out around 100 megabytes a second. So you're still getting so much more speed. And again, even comparing this to like an older portable drive, like a normal hard drive, like a portable USB 3.0 portable hard drive, there's no moving parts in this. So while I'm playing my game off of this, I can throw it against the wall and there's not really going to be any issue.
Speaking of throwing it against the wall, does it have any like IP rating or anything?
No IP rating on this. The bottom part right here is made of metal, and the top part is sort of like this glossy plastic. One thing I like about it is, yeah, there is like a Ravpower logo on the back, which is kind of covered by that. But on this side, there's nothing. Like
just gloss.
Yeah,
cool.
There's no markings or something that says, "Hey, steal me." Like, it's just this portable little drive. What's kind of nice about the drive as well is that it does come with a little carrying pouch bag, which I'll bring this stuff up here for you guys. Here we go. So it comes with this little carrying pouch, which is kind of nice, even though you can like throw this in your pocket. It also comes with both a USB Type-C and USB Type-C to Type-A. So if you had an older computer or a friend's computer that didn't have a Type-C, you have the Type-A there as well. It does come with software, which allows you to password protect the drive. It's just a simple little drive. When it comes to pricing, this is actually their in quotes normal pricing on Amazon is $149.99, but then there's a $35 coupon that you just like check the box on Amazon, which brings it down to around 114 bucks, which I think is fair for these. There is a massive disparity, and we talked about this before when it comes to portable storage between a USB 3.2 Gen 1 and a USB 3.2 Gen 2 and even USB 3.2 Gen 2x2. The price disparities are like really bad because you can get a USB 3.2 Gen 2 drive for not much more than this. You know what I mean? But that's just kind of how companies are pricing these. So I'm not going to hold that against Ravpower. I think it's a great little drive. I gave it a 9 out of 10 as well. Just keep in mind that there are much faster drives out there. But this is going to be one of the smallest drives that you're going to see. So,
gotcha.
So yeah, three fun reviews this week. All products that I would definitely recommend to people. So that is I'm definitely a fan of all the products this week. So let's move on to a really awesome build. So we're going to talk about Case Mod Friday. And if you guys don't know what that is where we feature a build or mod in the community and just kind of showing off what you can do with all of these awesome PC components that we talk about. So this week we have Project Killstreak from TechRed Mods, and this is done inside the Cougar Conqueror case. And I do have to say, this is one of the better Cougar Conqueror builds. I would say this is for Call of Duty. It's Call of Duty themed, but I love the orange in this. I love the frosted tubing in this. I love everything, just like the little accents down here on the power supply.
Yeah, the rivets, and the airbrushing and painting that was done on this. Yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I do like, again, the frosted tubing, right? Gets a good look there on
the front is frosted.
Front looks cool.
Yeah. Very, very cool build. And again, it fits. I think the one thing I like about this is that it fits the theme of like, this is supposed to be like an attack helicopter or jet, with the missiles and stuff, but it doesn't go too far, because we've seen ones that go too far that look like a prop, like from that are like made to look more like a prop than a computer. I feel this one is the perfect blend where you can, it's a PC build, but at the same time you're like, oh, it's, it's designed to look like a, like a jet or something like that, right? I think it's the perfect balance. At least for me, it's a perfect balance of that. But yeah, just some, like I said, some awesome. The
Page
frosted
2 has some cool pictures of it like glowing. The last image is pretty. It's turned on and just has this glow to it. That's kind of cool.
The Aorus orange is what you would call that. But yeah, it's just a really cool build. Another awesome one by TechRed Mods. We featured a bunch of his builds in the past. Just good stuff. Like I said, I like it, and it is the their liquid cooled board, which is really awesome as well. So pretty interesting that the graphics card is not liquid cooled.
I was thinking the same thing, but I think just having those fans and kind of having that maybe propeller type look, or I don't know. I would be interested to see what this would have turned out looking like with a water cooled card in it. I think that would have been pretty cool too.
I do think that it doesn't. It's not like this still
doesn't
works.
Look bad. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It still works with the build. So definitely check this one out. Again, this is from TechRed Mods. We have a link to his Facebook that you guys can go ahead and check out all of his other stuff that he is working on as well. And as I always say, we have a full section of Case Mod Friday builds. Every week we feature one, unless for some reason I'm not available to select one out there. But as you can see, we have a ton, 44 pages of builds. So if you want to go through the site and just look at case mods and get some inspiration, go ahead and do that. And our contests are still going on. I believe this is going to be the last week because I've run out of things to give away. But we do have another Gen 3 NVMe SSD to give away. If you guys go to thinkcomputers.org/moving, that will take you to our giveaway page, which has been running for 15 weeks straight. And this week we have the ADATA Falcon M.2 solid state drive, 1 terabyte. We reviewed this a while back, and I figured why not give it away to you guys. As with all of our contests that they run on Gleam, so you just put in your name and your email, and then you're entered. And then after you enter the first time, there's other ways that you can get entered, whether it's subscribing to, say, like the podcast or Twitch, or following us on Facebook or things like that. You can go ahead and do that. But again, just another way to give back to you guys. And again, we've been doing it. I can't believe, man, 15 weeks. That's like such a long time.
It's a long stretch to do like anything, like, trying to like create a habit or something, trying to do something over and over. Yeah, keep it up with it. It's like 15 weeks is pretty good.
I can't believe we've had 15 products to give away too. And it's like a lot of stuff, and stuff that it's all the products that we've given away were stuff that we've reviewed. It's not like companies have given us this. I mean, they gave us this stuff to review, but it's stuff that we've had and that we reviewed and that we're giving away. We're not keeping it after the review or whatever. So I feel really good about giving away all that stuff. So we might keep it going, but I really don't think that I have a lot of stuff left. Like the cave behind me of products has been kind of depleted.
Well, and the stuff I think that we've given away is kind of universal, right? Like it can go with any system. It's not like
Yeah.
you give someone a CPU and it's like, well, now I need a motherboard that's compatible with that, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Hey, we have given away, I think, 3 motherboards, or at least 2 motherboards.
I mean, you've given away motherboards, but I think
Yeah.
a lot of the other items are just like universal. They're good for anybody.
Yeah. So let's go to news, and it's like really hot in here. So I finally, talking about tech stuff, which I'll talk about while I turn on the air. So when I moved, this place has what's it called? It has like a smart thermostat, so I can
already there for you.
Yeah, so it's already there, and you just register it on the app. It's
Cool.
78. Wait,
78.
Yeah, it's hot in here. So let's turn this down.
Does it have a sensor like in every room?
No, I think it's just on the thermostat. So okay, so yeah, so I just like turn it on in the app. I don't know if you got
it's
it's
way below.
Yeah, it's like way blown up, but it is pretty cool, and you can set things in like not as much because I'm in Southern California that I would use it, but like if you're coming home from a trip and you want the house to be warm or cool or whatever, it is kind of nice. You can set schedules. So it's it's Honeywell. So it's not a Nest. Most people have a Nest. It's the Honeywell one, but I like for being a tech guy, it's pretty easy to set up, like really, really easy. So like
cool.
Really easy. It's almost like any other IoT device where like it has its own Wi-Fi network. You connect to it and then you set it to yours and then it connects and then you can use it. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, so now on to news. I'm sure you guys don't want to hear about all my home tech stuff. So news, the big story this week, and we've been talking about it for weeks because it's been a bunch of leaks and things that I'm not happy about. But hopefully this will help mitigate the issues with getting graphics cards. Is that NVIDIA put out a blog post about their new Lite Hash Rate graphics card. So NVIDIA is actually making this official. They're openly talking about it, whereas they weren't really talking about it before, and we were under the impression that basically they were going to release these cards that basically had half the performance in Ethereum mining. And the whole idea behind that was so that miners aren't buying up cards that are for gamers, basically. Even though I guess graphics cards have always been used for mining. So, I mean, you can say they're for mining, but our initial our initial understanding of this is that NVIDIA was just going to push out these new GPUs. And, if you had a 3080 and a 3080 Lite Hash Rate, you wouldn't know the difference. You would have to install it and see the I guess device ID, or you would just have to try to mine Ethereum and see if it's a Lite Hash Rate. That has been changed, or
good.
It wasn't going to be that way. Anyway, so NVIDIA has said that they officially announced these cards. They say, okay, we're basically re-releasing the 3060, 3070, and 3080, and we're releasing them as Lite Hash Rate. And that on the box of any of the AIB partners, like an Asus card, Gigabyte, MSI, on the box, it's going to say Lite Hash Rate. And on the card itself, it's going to have a sticker or something that's going to say Lite Hash Rate. So you as the consumer knows when you're, at the store, that it's the Lite Hash Rate version, or if you're even buying online, it's going to say Lite Hash Rate version. So I like that. Because initially we had thought that we wouldn't even know, and then you don't know which one you're buying. I still don't know if this is going to help people
get cards.
Yeah, get cards. There's a couple scenarios that could obviously come out of this. One being that the non-Lite Hash Rate cards will still be sold at higher prices, or these the crazy scalper prices, because miners want those cards, right? So then you would see a 3070 Lite Hash Rate at its MSRP of $499 and a 3070 non-Lite Hash Rate at like $2,500 or something crazy. That is like what we hope would happen, but I honestly don't think this is going to mitigate it for a couple of reasons. One, we saw it with the 3060 that that was supposed to be the first. Yeah, they got around it with in less than a month. Miners got around it. I don't know how easy this implementation is going to be to get around, but I think that with miners, and it comes to money, with anything, if it comes to money, you're going to figure out a way to make that money.
Well, and I'm curious, okay, so they're cutting it down, and won't perform as well, but will it still be enough to make it worthwhile? Right?
What do you mean?
You know what I mean? Well, if it's a light hash rate card, right? It doesn't mean it can't do it. It's just not going to be as efficient and worth your time and energy, I guess. Or are they saying it's not going to do it at all?
No, from my understanding, is basically the chip in the driver will know that you're mining Ethereum and will just stall that task or whatever. That's how it worked on the original 3060. Is that you would start mining Ethereum and it would be where it should be, and then within a couple minutes it would drop to half that performance. I believe that's how these will work. I'm not sure,
but is even half of the rate enough to make it worth it?
For probably not. For people who don't pay electricity, yes. For people who do pay electricity, no, I don't think. So I would hope that this helps with getting gamers cards. Obviously, I'm still, and I've said this since we started talking about this, since we talked about the 3060, I'm not a fan of NVIDIA not letting me do whatever I want to do with their card. It's just me. So we'll see what happens. It makes you wonder, will this be a thing going forward?
With all cards, hey, here's the full version, here's the light hash rate version.
Well, probably. No, with the next series, so the 3000 series, or we're on the 3000 series.
Well, with the 4000, you'll have your standard.
No, you won't.
You just have a light hash rate card.
Yeah, they're not made for mining. Now, AMD has said that they will not limit their cards for any algorithm, whether it's mining or anything else. They won't do that. And that's what they've said a couple months ago. So we'll see if AMD follows suit, or they just say that, if you want to mine, whoever wants to mine is going to get AMD cards. So we'll see kind of how that works. And it'll be interesting to see, because NVIDIA does have their crypto mining cards, if people will choose an NVIDIA crypto mining card or an AMD normal graphics card to mine, if that happens. So this is months down the road, I'm thinking in my head, but I mean, we could see that as well, where miners are going to choose between those two. But I think the hot commodity right now is the current 3000 series non-light hash rate cards. Those are going to be the ones that people are going to sell for high prices still, because that's what people want. So that is it. Like I said, the biggest thing out of this is that I'm glad that NVIDIA is making their partners and themselves letting the consumer know that these are light hash rate, and that it is going to be marked not only on the box but also on the card itself, so So that is
that's super important and a good move, because otherwise that's horrible.
Yeah. Old man in the chat, he said, demand is so high for graphics cards right now. Even 3 to 4 year old cards are selling for high prices. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. It is and I don't think even back when the original mining craze was a thing, I don't think the demand has ever been like this.
No.
For cards. It just hasn't been. I just wish with all this new tech, and we've talked about it, it's I just wish people could get their hands on these things. It's especially
it's like the sports card and trading card world right now. Can't get a hold of anything right now.
Oh really?
Yeah, that's totally separate. But yeah,
maybe I should. I have a box of I actually have some really, at least a couple rookie cards of famous hockey players that I should probably look into getting praised and sold, but that's a whole nother story. But back to tech, talking about graphics cards, somebody overclocked the Radeon RX 6900 XT to 3,321 megahertz, and they broke the 3D Mark Firestrike world record. We talked a couple weeks ago, DeBauer did it, and he had the current record. This was they beat his record. It's from Team OGS, and they overclocked the Power Color RX 6900 XT Red Devil, or I think it's the Liquid Devil is the one they actually overclocked, which is the one that's like the highest clocked. And then I assume they ran it on LN2, but it came up under the results on the website. And yeah, first.
Number one.
That's crazy. Yeah, first. So another awesome overclock. I love to see these things. And then yeah, it seems like to the 30 or the 6900 XT is the card to use right now for
world record stuff.
Yeah, for world record stuff, because we saw DeBauer do it, and now this Team OGS did it as well. So pretty cool to see that. And talking about DDR5, so we talked about it. It is more than likely going to arrive later this year. People are saying Q3. I'm really thinking it's going to be Q4, maybe announced in Q3, but we'll see it shipped in Q4. That's just write that down. That's my guess. Corsair was one of the companies this week to tease some DDR5 6400. So we talked about this stuff being some of the fastest at 4800 megahertz. Corsair is teasing 6400 megahertz memory that will arrive later this year. They put out an official blog post talking about DDR5 and the technology, and what it's going to run at. And if you look, their max frequency is 6400 megahertz, and that's the JEDEC spec.
Right.
So
yeah, that's just like kind of the standard.
Yeah.
They're going to be higher than that.
Yeah. And what's interesting, the voltage. So DDR4 initially launched, was it 1.45 volts? Like the original DDR4?
Something like that. There was a chart above that kind of showed the history of voltages.
Was it? Oh, yeah, kind of. Yeah. So DDR4... So 1.35 volts was it? 1.35 volts was originally DDR4. We're moving to 1.1 volts for DDR5. Now, keep in mind that this memory, this DDR4, needs to run at 1.5 volts to even achieve 4800 megahertz. But they're telling us that DDR5 will run at 1.1 volts to achieve 6400 megahertz, which is crazy. The thing I'm actually most interested in with DDR5 is if we see new memory lines, right? So we all know Dominator Platinum from Corsair. Giel had their they teased some of their stuff, which is the same stuff that they also already offer, which I'll bring up here for you guys. So they talked about DDR5 and like they were showing their Polaris, which is already out. But I'm like, will we see like a new Corsair memory that just is different, right? It's kind of like the same thing we see with motherboards. Like every once in a while, we'll see like a new motherboard line, right? We'll see something, but
I think that would be the time to do it.
DDR5 would be the time to like introduce something new. But again,
or do you keep it the same so people know, hey, the Dominator is the best stuff that we're gonna have? Do you just keep the same?
How do you top the Dominator? Like how that is
Destroyer, right?
It's such good looking memory. With the Capellix RGB LEDs, like it's so awesome. Like with all of these lines from every company, like their top of the line memory is so good. Just like the Trident Z Royal. Like how do you go about making something that's better than that?
It's just like with music. Why do you get better than the current hit? Right? You're like, oh, there's never gonna be a better song than this.
No, I know. It's just like, I'm just thinking, like, what's Corsair going to put out that's going to be better than Dominator Platinum? Like, I just don't see it. I don't know, because it's like the perfect memory in my opinion. It's just like, yeah. So yeah, but we will see DDR5. I'm excited. Giel said that their memory will start at 4800 megahertz and will go up to at least 60 or 7200 megahertz.
Holy crap.
That's a non RGB version, but 7200 megahertz. Like that's crazy speeds. So I'm really like I'm excited for that. Obviously, I would assume that the next AMD as well as Intel chipsets will support DDR5. So you will see if you're running a 5000 series, 3000 series AMD system, you will need to upgrade to a new processor and new motherboard. And if you're running, Z390, Z490, Z590, you will need to upgrade a new CPU and new motherboard to get DDR5. So that's just something to think about. That's why I don't think it's gonna come until really Q4, but pretty excited to see. Yeah, Old Man said he's interested to see what's the best price to performance with DDR5. It'd be interesting to see the actual pricing on it as well. It's like, because it's so much faster, is it going to be so much more expensive, or is it going to be, like that, like $20 more than like the DDR4 equivalent or semi-equivalent?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It'd be interesting.
Well, yeah, you get in at that lower, even the low level of DDR5, so much faster than our highest DDR4. I doubt the price of that low entry level is going to be so much higher than the highest of DDR4 that we have now. So yeah, it'll be pretty interesting to see what that jump is. We always get it with video cards and CPU generations. We've been on DDR4 for quite a while, so kind of excited to see what that performance looks like when we make that jump.
Yeah, I will be very interested to see that as well. Moving over to notebook stuff, Samsung announced their gaming grade OLED notebook display panels. Like, I see this stuff, especially when we see it at CES, and I'm like, I want it, I need it. But then I'm like, I will never, like, for a laptop, even with like if you have an OLED TV, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But like, OLED is, when I first saw it at CES, and this was like years ago, yeah. I was like, this is amazing. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen, because it's like, it is so much different. Thin. Yeah. It's so thin and it's so bright, and it's just, whoever came, like, OLED is amazing. So their laptop OLEDs have been certified for gaming performance. These come in their Galaxy Book Pro and Galaxy Book Pro 360. I assume these look amazing. Like, OLED, and again, like a small OLED screen on a laptop would be excellent, I think. I think it's one of the things when you are looking at a laptop, if you can get an OLED for not much more, if you use your laptop a lot, I think it would be. Don't you think that would be worth the upgrade?
Oh, yeah.
And it does technically make it a little bit thinner. So yeah, so pretty cool to see that. If you want to check this out, check out those two laptops. Again, they're the Galaxy Book Pro 360 and Galaxy Book Pro from Samsung. And talking about Mac stuff, I know we're not Mac stuff, but I think this is really impressive. We talked about it with their M1 chip. The Apple M1 chip has been, and we've talked about it. I'm incredibly impressed by it, because it's just kicking Intel's ass. And I think this next, like, again, we're going to talk about the M1, but I think with the M2, you're going to eventually see Apple phase Intel out. They're just going to phase them out. And that's a big crush to Intel.
What, 7% of their business? Right?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. So the new iMacs came out, the 24.5 inch, which I think is perfect size for like that family computer. The different colors, which you may or may not be a fan of. We talked about those a couple of weeks ago when they launched. The results are in for the M1 iMac, and it beats the old 21-inch or 21.5-inch iMac. It beats the single core performance by 24% and the multi-core performance by 56%.
Dang,
that's crazy. That's actually really nice, because like, as a lot of these are for like a family computer, like a like a high schooler's computer a lot of the times, and it's just good to get that extra performance. Just like with a lot of people that I know who have MacBooks, like those, like we're used to upgrading. I mean, I'm used to upgrading like a lot, but to have something for years, knowing that, you know, this is bringing so much more performance, meaning that you can have this iMac for 5, 6, 7 years is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, so many of those go to like, you know, that freshman in college, and it's got to last them all 4 years, right? Knowing that you're getting that much more performance out of the previous kind of generation of hardware is a pretty good feeling.
Yeah,
knowing that it's going to last.
Yeah, so like I said, I think that the M1 is awesome. Again, we're not Mac people, but if you are Mac people, or Mac person, I would be very, very excited because you're just getting so much better performance than just the previous generation, which is pretty cool. Talking about this is interesting. This is kind of your realm because you're the AIO guy of ThinkComputers. Inwin launched a new AIO. It's called their BR series. So there's a BR24 and BR36. The 24 is 240 millimeter. The 36 is 360 millimeter. And it has this interesting fan that sits on top of the CPU block right here. That's supposed to essentially cool your VRM, maybe
your memory a little bit. We saw this with the Arctic cooler. I forget the exact name of it off the top of my head that we looked at last year. It had a little fan down there to kind of blow some air around. I'm not as big of a fan of this model. It's just, it almost looks like there's an additional heatsink with a fan on the CPU.
That's the biggest thing that I see is this
so big
is going to make installing much harder. And again, AIOs a lot of times are for beginners. So as a beginner, you're making it harder for that beginner, right?
Sure.
At least that's my thinking of it.
This design also has the pump in line, right? There's no pump in the
it's right
housing.
here.
It's that little unit there. I don't know. It's because it is true, right? There's a lot of I guess bypassing air that you're not getting when you're using an AIO or even a hard tubing build, right? You just don't get the air around that section of power delivery and other components that you do with a standard heatsink, especially with like a down firing or down facing fan that kind of blows straight down and spreads out from there. And this will help with that. I don't know that it like how much, especially on an AIO, like what are you doing to your system that requires this extra cooling there? Because as long as you have like some intake and exhaust fans, you're gonna have enough cooling for these components. But if you're trying to get like the most out of it, you're probably not going to be cooling it with an AIO anyways. I mean, it's possible that you would be, but it's like the performance difference you'll get from adding that little extra cooling to those surrounding components isn't going to be enough to make a difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, like I said, it'd be interesting to see performance and like if you could test with the fan off and then with the fan on type deal.
Yeah, and I'm also curious, does it make any performance difference to the CPU cooling itself, right? Like, does that extra fan blowing on the block provide any sort of additional cooling? I don't know.
Yeah, and based on the size, I assume, because these are probably 120s. This is probably because it's 80 millimeter,
240 and a 360. So it almost looks smaller than an 80, but anything smaller than an 80 is going to get too loud.
Yeah, that's the thing I worry about too. Is like how fast is it actually running, and how loud.
Here?
No, it doesn't say.
It'd be interesting to see.
I do have to say, and they do say this in the little paragraph here, is that like with that, remember that BioStar motherboard, there are fans in the VRM.
Yeah.
And those are like tiny, and when you do full load, they sound like a rocket ship. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Pretty cool. Yeah. So, yeah, pretty interesting. Again, just something different for the AIO. And then something different for normal DIY water cooling is that EK has started to sell 90-degree pre-bent acrylic tubing. I want to know how you felt about this because you did your own bends for your hard tubing build. Would you have rather have got pre-bent tubing or
for this initial build? No. It's kind of one of those things where you're like, when you get your first car, you're like, oh, I'm changing my oil, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And which I think is good because you learn like the basics and you learn the fundamentals of, oh, bending tubes and here's how it works. But now I'm kind of like, if my car needs an oil change, I'm taking it to the dealership and letting them do it, right?
Yeah.
Because they do it every day and they do it all the time. I'll let EK bend my tubes from now on, or not. I don't think I'm at that point. I think this is great though. And a 90-degree bend is going to get you a lot of versatility in a lot of builds. So no, I think this is perfect.
Do you think this helps with people who maybe are beginners and they want to do a hard, because I mean, you go through our Case Mod Fridays and like almost all of them are hard tubing, and like somebody like me, like I want that cool looking hard tubing build, but like you research it. Oh, I got to bend this myself. I don't know what I'm doing.
And I got to get a heat gun.
Yeah. Like, so this, I feel like this helps out with like the resistance to it. Right. Sure. There's less learning and less maybe time that's spent learning, and less chances obviously to mess up as well. So yeah, I like it for that.
You're kind of stuck with their I guess decision on their bend, right? So if you wanted a wider sweeping bend or a tighter bend, you don't necessarily want a tighter bend necessarily, but you're stuck with whatever radius they've chosen, and who knows, they may offer multiple bend radiuses to get the multiple looks available for people. So no, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, because doesn't look like some of these are, I guess it's like it
almost looks pinched a little, which you'll get a little bit on a 90, even if you have the filler in there. You're not going to get a perfect mandrel bend on those, but
I mean, these don't look pinched right here. These are the ones that
no, those don't. Yeah, but the ones with the color looked a little thin in the middle on a couple of them.
So they're going to be offering in 12, 14, and 16 millimeter, 0.08 millimeter. Is that 0.08 millimeters or millimeter?
0.8 millimeters.
Yeah, 0.8 millimeters pre-bent.
Or no. So that's a 12 millimeter, like 0.8 meter tube.
That's
so
that's the length.
Yeah,
length. Yeah. And they'll be coming in packs of 6 for between 55 and 65 euros, which American side will probably be a little bit more expensive than that, I think, because that price includes the VAT. So yeah, probably a little bit more expensive than that. And what do you feel? Is that like a decent price?
I wouldn't want to pay it. I mean, but again, if you factor in, I've got to have a heat gun or borrow one or whatever, right? If you buy that heat gun, there's some additional cost there, and then you're like, well, now I only have this heat gun for this one project. So it's probably a fair price.
Oh, yeah.
I do like that they're giving you multiple pieces, because sure, the bend is done, but you still have to get those lengths right to go in between components. And you screw up and make one too short, well, it's not going to line up with that other fitting. So well, now I've got 5, and depending on your build, 5 might not be enough.
Yeah. Well, if you are interested in those, obviously you can pick those up from EK.
Old man says he's still on the soft tubing train, so he doesn't have the patience for the hard tubing. So making it easier is good. I agree. I think just offering it is nice. Let those that want to build and bend their own do it. It's a good learning experience. In fact, I need to tear this apart, and I'm going to change up my loop already. So
yeah. Well, you have more time than I do, because I that's why I was like thinking, because I'm thinking about redoing this system here because I'm having some issues, and I want to, like, this system is decent. Like the main, well, not the graphics card, but like everything else in this system is it's an like high-end desktop system, but it's old.
I was like, to say, it's like what, 4 years, 4 years old?
It's a 79. It's an Intel like 79. I don't even know what it is.
It's a what, 12 core, 24 thread? isn't it?
No, I think it's only 8 core, 16 thread. Hold on. How do I do this here? It's not what it, like I said, initially. So it's a 7960X. Which how many? I don't know.
7960X is 16 cores, 32 threads.
Yeah, 16 core, 32 threads. So like it has the cores, but the thing about it is that those cores run.
It's a 2.8 gigahertz base and 4.2 turbo.
Yeah, so it's not like that. And then I run into the issues with like USB, and it's just older systems. So what I think
I'm going to get in Gen 4, right? Like,
yeah. Well, what I think I want to do is I do have just sitting around. I do have a 5950X, which is also 16 core, 32 thread. The only thing I would miss out on would be the extra lanes, which I could get a card that would have the chip that would give me the extra lanes anyways, which I think I might do because I don't want to go back to, I want to be all PCI Express storage. So we're figuring all that out. But I would lose my quad channel memory. So it's the only thing I'm thinking about. Yeah. But anyways, the whole thing about that is that I was like, oh, maybe I'll do a water cooling build. Like that'd be fun. And I'm like thinking about getting the Lian Li 011 dynamic. And I'd be like, oh, the one with the front, reservoir that, that it's like, all, and I was like, and I was like, I'll do it. I'll AIO it. I just like don't want to deal with that, and then cleaning it out every so many months and doing all that stuff is just like not what I want to deal with. So but I hope, like, I do think I will be doing that up once everything settles down with this office and the move and everything, and like once we get back on track, then that's like another project. That's like months away. But yeah, guys, that is it for the news this week. Coming up next week, actually tomorrow, MSI is launching a brand new mouse. They've never done a mouse like this before. I'll be using it tonight when we play Apex. I've been testing it. It is actually a really nice mouse. They've done a lot of things right with it. So check out that review for tomorrow. I'm also taking a look at another Z590 motherboard. This line is a line that I've been wanting to take a look at for a while. It is their Z590 Vision G. Vision series.
Good looking board.
Yeah, this Vision series is really created. It's created for creators, people who are, video editors or CAD designers or stuff like that. It's not really a gaming line. And most products, I mean, there was like that 2 or 3 year period where like everything was gaming focused. You had RGBs out the ass, and there was like nothing really for creators. And as obviously YouTube got popular, and then all of us were making YouTube videos as well, and gamers, like they put out this line for creators, the Vision line. So it'd be interesting to check this out yet. I haven't even put the CPU on it yet, so I'll be doing that this weekend.
Did this replace their Designaire lineup?
Yes. Which they did do a really good job on, but they only made 2 boards. They made the I forget which. I think the 390 and 490 they made. I think Designaire boards. Yeah, and then they might have had the high end desktop board as well, but that was it. So this is the new line for that. Like I said, I'm excited to check this one out. And then I will also be taking a look at another Gen 4 NVMe SSD. This one comes from Silicon Power. It is their US70. This is basically a first generation Gen 4 drive. Uses the Phison controller. I think it's the Phison E16 that it uses. So the speeds on this one are 5,000 megabytes a second read and up to 4,400 megabytes a second write. So again, it's crazy to think about that. I say that 5,000 megabytes a second is entry level for Gen 4, but it is because we're going to see. We already saw it with the Samsung 980 Pro, which is in like the 6,700, and by the end of this year, you'll see a lot of drives in the 7,000 range. But yeah, still, and it does not ship with a heatsink, so we'll see how that works out with the drive as well. So I'll be testing that this week too. So a lot of stuff going on, a lot of testing. Like I said, a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, so we always talk about stuff, tech related stuff that we've done. Have you done anything tech related?
Yesterday we were having some internet outages, so that kind of made me like get back into my new router or firewall.
Oh yeah,
and see,
have you ever set that up yet?
Yeah, it's been I've been on it for like 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Dude, the dashboard for it is like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna show it off. I'm just gonna pop over to it, but yeah, no, it's been good. It doesn't give me as much information regarding like the internet being down as I was hoping. Right, I would hope to see like some sort of notification like, hey, we can't get to your internet seems to be down. Right, there's some degradation of some it's because I'm trying to get to the wrong thing. Degradation maybe of your performance of your wireless network, but it didn't really tell me that my internet was down, so I was kind of disappointed in that. But there might be something I can adjust on there as well. So that's a
well, obviously you can see it behind me now. So how much better? Like, and it's not dark out yet, so
you can definitely tell the coloring. It's a lot darker in your room now, and you can the yellow doesn't look too yellow. It looks like an off-white light.
Yeah, because it's right by the window, which is still it's still light out, but it's getting darker. We'll have to like, maybe I'll put the blackouts in for next week, and then we can see what it looks like there. The only thing is that I don't have a light here, which I would kind of need, because even now you can see like the red on my face from the lights that are the RGB lights that are behind the monitor. So might have to change that up. But yeah, so I just been working on this. I don't know if did we talk about the my robot vacuum? Did we talk about that?
I don't remember. I know I saw another picture though. It was like, you're like, oh, this thing's awesome, and you had the picture of like your apartment and everywhere it had gone. It does make me want to get one again.
Before I moved, I bought the Wise robot vacuum, and then I was like, I'm gonna use it, and then I was like, well, why am I gonna like use it in this old ass apartment? So I just left it in the box, and I finally opened it and I set it up. Which is, if you ever use the Wise product, like it is extremely easy to set up, no issues. And it works so good. And again, like I'm a tech guy, but like I'm kind of like just like the technology that it just knows where to go and it does everything. And you could even walk in front of it and it knows that it like you're a human and you're not like a wall. So it won't like create that wall. And
right. So it just pauses for a minute and then resumes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's one of the more affordable ones that uses LiDAR. So it has the thing always spinning on the top of it, so it's detecting as it goes, and it's not all that loud. Like I'm a fan of it. I think when I bought it, it was like $250, which isn't that bad. I run it once a week. Like it just helps me, and especially because like we have a dog, like getting all the dog hair up is like something that like was a pain in the ass in the old place because I didn't vacuum. Like who wants to vacuum, right? Nobody. And like I never did in the old place, like at all. Like it was really bad. Like unless I spilled something, vacuuming wasn't happening. So like on Saturday morning, I just start it and it just goes and it does its thing. And I would recommend to anybody to get a robot vacuum. It just saves so much time. So
did it come with like a base and everything where it goes back to and charges itself?
Yeah. And it's cool. It will, once it's on like I think 5%, it will go back and it just parks itself and it charges, and it's like
that's cool.
You have to get one. You're in the Wise ecosystem and you should get one. It's
a little bit, yeah.
But yeah, I think that is all I have. Oh, I do have to say that if you are a sports fan, it's playoffs in the NHL, and I'm a big hockey fan, and the Penguins are obviously in the playoffs, but like every game that I've watched has been epic. And I think it's because like fans are allowed in the arena
compared to last year.
Yeah. So it's crazy. There's been fights. Like it's been awesome. Any game, any of the nights that are on have been awesome to watch. So if you are a hockey fan, definitely watch hockey if you can. Old man in the chat before we get out of here, he said he bought a Razer Ballistics or Basilisk. I always think like if I see something like that, I'm like ballistics, like like HyperX or Hyperspeed wireless gaming mouse. I'm using the included dongle, not Bluetooth. Has been great. Yeah. So most of those, I don't know about that one, but most of the new gaming wireless mice will come with a 2.4 gigahertz dongle, which you should use over Bluetooth because it's going to be better connectivity. I have the Razer Viper Ultimate one, and that's an excellent wireless mouse. So yeah, guys, that will go ahead and wrap it up. We are going to jump over to Twitch, twitch.tv/ThinkComputers. Ryan's going to get the stream up, and we'll be playing Apex. Hopefully do a little bit better. The past couple weeks I haven't been so good, but I'm like charged up on this energy drink here, and we're going to get into some Apex. So we will see you guys.
Play in a new mode. You'll get used to it. You'll get there, Bob.
Yeah, eventually we'll see. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and jump over there. So if you want to keep on hanging out with us on this Wednesday evening, you can go ahead and do that. Again, it is twitch.tv/ThinkComputers. And until next week.